and I now recognize myself for opening remarks. Pursuant to notice, we meet today to hear from distinguished witnesses about existing AUMFs and the reform of the War Powers Resolution and the proper constitutional balance between the executive branch and Congress on questions of war and peace. On September the 11th, 2001, Al-Qaeda terrorists flew two airplanes into the World Trade Center in my home city of New York. Another aircraft hit the Pentagon. A fourth plane was likely headed to the United States Capitol, and it would have, but for the brave actions of the passengers on United 93. Thousands were murdered that day. Congress passed the 2001 authorization of the use of military force just 3 days after 9/11. It was meant to target the terrorists who planned that attack and the entities that had protected them. That intent was very clear to me at that time. Over 20 years, successive administrations have interpreted and reinterpreted the text of that resolution to use it in new countries against an expanding list of loosely connected groups. This process has all but cut Congress out of its fundamental responsibility to decide issues of war and peace. Many of our service members fighting these wars today weren't even born when Congress passed the 2001 AUMF. Yet Congress still has not gone back to update that authority. Congress needs to step up and do the hard work of reforming this outdated law. Congress has also yet to repeal AUMFs that no longer serve a purpose. 2002 Iraq War AUMF, for example, is not needed for any current military operations, which is why our committee will take up legislation this week to repeal it. Without objection, I would like to enter into the record a letter from Representative Barbara Lee, who has been a stalwart champion of congressional war powers and authored the measure we will be considering this week. And without objection, I would also like to enter into the record a letter from a coalition of 18 advocacy organizations supporting a stronger role for Congress in national security decisions. The 2002 AUMF was enacted to authorize force against Saddam Hussein, not ISIS or Al-Qaeda or Iran. Leaving an outdated AUMF on the books does not make America any safer. It just opens the door for future presidents to use force without working through Congress. Many presidents are guilty of this. But in the most recent example, just last year, the Trump administration developed a novel legal theory to claim the 2002 AUMF authorized the killing of Qasem Soleimani, the leader of Iran's Quds Force. Anyone who reads the text of the 2002 AUMF will know it does not authorize war against Iran or strikes on Iranian officials. Beyond considering current AUMFs, this hearing is an opportunity to examine how Congress can restore an appropriate balance with the executive branch through reforms to the War Powers Resolution itself. The War Powers Resolution was passed in the wake of the Vietnam War as an effort to reassert Congress's role. Unfortunately, the executive branch has chipped away at the law, reinterpreting its key terms to limit congressional authority and ignoring other requirements altogether. Reforming the War Powers Resolution will not be easy. It will require a carefully considered balancing between preserving necessary presidential authorities without delegating away Congress's constitutional responsibility. There is no question the commander-in-chief directs our armed forces and prosecutes our wars. The president has the legal authority derived from Article 2 of the Constitution to defend our country. That is not in question. But the president cannot take our nation to war without authorization from Congress. For decades now, Congress has not fully met this burden. It was President Obama who last sent Congress a draft AUMF that would have limited enduring ground operations and required regular reauthorizations. In failing to reach a compromise and bring a new AUMF for a vote, Congress once again abdicated its constitutional responsibility. The time to reverse this trend is right now. We cannot shy away from the difficult task ahead. We must repeal authority that is no longer needed, update authorities that still serve an important national security purpose, and develop a clearer war powers framework that reasserts Congress's proper constitutional role. The bipartisan panel before us today comprises the nation's foremost experts on these challenging issues. And I look forward to hearing their thoughts and their responses to our inquiries. Our hearing builds on the hearing that Chairman McGovern and Ranking Member Cole of the Rules Committee held this morning to consider war powers resolutions reform. Progress on this issue will require close collaboration between our committees, and I would like to thank them for their partnership. These are tough matters to tackle, but we signed up for that job when we ran and was elected to Congress. I will now recognize the ranking member, Representative McCall, for his